Podcast City Network.
This is Final Score, your number one podcast for sports news. Here are your hosts, Chris and Craig.
Hey guys, and welcome to another exciting episode of Final Score, episode 91. Man, we are getting there. We are now in the countdown to episode 100. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait till we get there because we have so much exciting stuff planned for that time. But we have to get through these episodes first. But we got something exciting anyways today because we have the return of none other than Craig. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, man. I feel a lot better. Pretty much fully recovered. It's been pretty good. It was weird not being able to talk for basically a week and a half. It was weird, but yeah, we're pretty much fully recovered. But yeah, it's good to be back.
Oh, definitely. I'm sure your girlfriend enjoyed that, though. You know, the no talking aspect of it. But you know, I'm sure my wife would enjoy it as well if I would shut the hell up every now and then. But yeah, she enjoyed the peace and quiet. That's for sure. Oh, I'm sure. But we do have an exciting episode planned for today. But to make sure that you keep up on all things Final Score, you have to follow us on social media at PCN Final Score on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. Go on there, give us a like, give us a follow, share to your friends, invite your friends, and help us bump up these numbers. As you see above us, we've been making some progress. I think we almost got 20 followers just yesterday on Twitter alone. So thank you guys so much for hitting that follow button. It means the world and helps us really get Final Score out there even more. But as you see, we got goals, so let's help keep pushing it, and we can only do it with you guys. But still, thank you guys so much for all of the support. Just like we're going to need some support for some of these teams that are going to end up losing some of these conference championship games today, because it's going to be, I tell you what, these are going to be some exciting games. I think more excited for these games than I have been in a while.
Yeah, they're going to be quite the intriguing matchups, and it really just because of a couple of different styles, that are going on here. Because you got obviously Tampa Bay, they go out and get Tom Brady, and it basically transforms their team into something that's completely different. And they still have their defense that they were relying on a little bit, but this team, getting to this point, the first time Brady's ever been a wild card per se, in his career, and going into Lambeau, you got Brady versus Rodgers, and then the other matchup, Bills versus Chiefs. The story of the Buffalo Bills, first time they won their conference championship in about 25 years. Kansas City, Mahomes cleared to play, but is he 100%? We don't really know. That's going to be a very exciting matchup. That's the one I'm really looking forward to, both of these matchups.
Yeah, they're going to be very exciting. It's going to be really intriguing to see how this will play out. But we're going to go ahead and hit it off with our first game that's going to be happening. Our 3:05 p.m. game on Fox is none other than our NFC Championship game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are currently favored, if I'm not mistaken, by 3, because I'm still trying to get to the outline, 3.5. And another big part of this, too, is that wide receiver Antonio Brown will not be playing in this game. He has been ruled out. I believe it was with a knee issue that he had earlier this week in practice. So it's going to be interesting because Antonio Brown's been a really huge target for Tom Brady over these last 8 weeks or so.
Yeah, he's really been finding Antonio Brown, and I'm just really impressed that we haven't heard Antonio Brown's name in the news, for causing trouble. Like, I honestly, from that perspective, I give a lot of props to him for keeping his nose clean. But we know what he can do when he's on the field. It's just the fact that he's got to get on the field to start with. So that's going to be a really big catalyst for this offense. Is, can Brady be able to find Antonio Brown? And that that defense, you've got their top corner for the Packers has I forget his name off the top of my head, but I know I was looking up the Pro Football Focus stats before the Rams game about how that matchup was going to be. And it was a matchup of top tier corners. So that's really going to be intriguing because you've got so many weapons for the Buccaneers. How are the Packers going to be able to defend all that? And we know the Packers defense has been a little weak against the run throughout the course of the year. So will the Buccaneers be able to rely on or provide holes for Leonard Fournette to be able to run through? Because if they can, we see what he can do if he's got holes and if they can able to establish that run game. So, that's going to be a big thing as well, is can they establish the run? Can they keep Aaron Rodgers off the field? That's how I think the Buccaneers will have the best chance to win in this game.
Absolutely. I definitely could see that. And the big matchup, you have to look at this, and I think it's what everybody keeps looking at, is 12 versus 12, Brady versus Rodgers. This is going to be historic for so many reasons. Some people are saying it's the most accomplished quarterback versus the most talented quarterback, that it's the GOAT versus the true GOAT, however you want to look at it. But this is going to be an amazing game, I think, from both perspectives. You got to remember, this is for Tom Brady, his first NFC title game. Who knew we were going to have a first for Tom Brady at this point in his career? But it is his first NFC title game. But this is also Aaron Rodgers' first NFC title game that he's been able to host at home. So first on both sides. But this is going to be a crazy war of just gunslingers, I feel like. I think there's going to be a lot of slinging of the ball, a lot of receivers getting involved. Even with Antonio Brown not there, I think this is going to open it up back to Tom Brady rediscovering the rest of his offense. That, hey, look, there's that nice shiny pony named Mike Evans over there. And, oh, look, there's a Chris Godwin too. So I think this is going to be Tom Brady being able to really show that, hey, it's not all Antonio Brown.
Another thing too is don't be surprised if you start seeing in these big matchups and these big moments. Don't be surprised you see Gronk's name show up a few times getting into the end zone, because they know each other very, very well. But yeah, I had some other thought I was gonna go with. Oh, as far as the GOAT conversation, just real quick, if you talk very quickly, you're talking about some of the greatest of all time. Yeah, you can go most accomplished versus most talented. We know what Rodgers has been able to do with the little bit that he had. Hell, the one year he actually had a halfway decent defense, he won a Super Bowl. So you look at that. But I would say, like, the legacy on the line is bigger gain for Tom Brady here, because you know that, okay, yeah, he won all those Super Bowls in New England, but now he's doing it in a brand new offense, on a brand new coach, with basically a whole brand new supporting cast in a new location in a different conference. I think if the Brady Bucks make it to the Super Bowl or even win the Super Bowl, GOAT conversation's over. Tom Brady, hands down.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the big thing you have to look at, is that legacy-wise, people like to always try and credit Bill Belichick for all the Super Bowls Tom Brady was able to win in New England. However, this is the true test. And even bigger so is that this could realistically be Tom Brady's last shot at winning a Super Bowl, because who knows if he does come back next year, if they're able to get back to this same point. And it's going to be very interesting when you look at it. With Aaron Rodgers, people are not as worried right now that he's going to retire. Not like how Tom Brady is. Tom Brady is there. Right. That guy, we know he's in his last year. So I feel a lot more pressure is on Tom Brady to try and win this and try and prove that he was the GOAT that actually won those 6 Super Bowls. So funny note, though, and I thought it was funny that you saw on social media, Gronk came out and was so happy to be playing in this game, saying, oh, man, we're making a trip back to the AFC title game and all this kind of stuff. And one of his teammates had to come on and be like, hey, man, and it was Devin White. It was like, this is the NFC title game, bro. But, it's all good.
That's great. Yeah, but a couple other things to take note of, like as far as really intriguing stats, turnovers. From a turnover standpoint, the Packers have a league low 11 turnovers. So Rodgers doesn't really turn the ball over a whole lot, and that's one thing that the Buccaneers have been actually feasting on over the last couple games. Over the last 2 playoff games, they've scored 27 points off of 5 turnovers. And it goes into and it goes into the sacks, because we know what kind of pass rushers they have on the Buccaneers defensive side.
Mm-hmm.
Packers have only allowed 21 sacks. So, and no sacks last week against that daunting LA Rams defense. So that's really going to be, I think, a couple of key points to look at when you're talking about Packers offense versus the Buccaneers defense, because I've already touched on the other side of that. So
absolutely, and I have to absolutely agree with you when you look at that fact that Green Bay's been able to keep that Aaron Rodgers jersey clean. That's very important when you look at it, especially when you get into playoff football. The Rams did have a very tall order for defense to try and play against, but Aaron Donald and his injury issues, I think, kind of helped them a little bit in that regard. But I don't think Tampa is going to be having any kind of those issues. But who knows? This can really play out any kind of way. It's going to be really interesting. But just real quick, want to give a couple shout outs to people's in the chat. Jimmy, always in there, always trying to give us his picks, thinking that Buffalo early, and then I think he said that the Packers running game could help decide the game. So it definitely could happen that way. Big shout out to George as well, who thinks that Brady and the NFL are still in collusion. Hey,
I love how the referee left him hanging in the Saints game, and he goes to tie five, and he's like, "Dude, no, I can't do that."
Right, we can't do that right now. Behind closed doors, Tom.
Can't do this in public.
Another shout out to Carolina. Thank you for joining us. She thinks that the Buccaneers will win the game. Definitely could happen, and we'll see what our picks are here in just a moment. Oh, George, you gotta love George. He puts in the chat, better comeback story, Craig or Alex Smith. Craig wasn't having throat surgery. He was helping Detroit find a new head coach.
No, I was helping convince the Lions front office to trade Matt Stafford.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, man. All right. So with that in mind, Craig, who do you think wins this game? Who is NFC champions?
This is a difficult one because obviously us living here in Florida, we would love to see the Buccaneers win. My heart pick tells me I want to see the Buccaneers advance. I want to see Brady just continue to stack up the accolades for his storied career. Mm-hmm. But this game's in Lambeau. I honestly haven't even looked for what the weather's going to be today, but it's usually pretty terrible this time of year. Not that matters for Brady, but it matters for a lot of other guys on the team. Mm-hmm. And think about the fact that the Packers they've been so hot on offense. I mean, Devontae Adams has been just on a roll this year from the wideout spot. They've got a few weapons themselves in Green Bay. I'm going to take Green Bay. My head tells me to take Green Bay, so I'm taking Green Bay in a very, very close game. It's like we said, the spread's 3.5. I think the Buccaneers cover, so it's a very, very tight game, but I take the Packers here.
Definitely could see that. This game's going to be tight, I think, pretty much no matter what. Currently in Lambeau, it is 27 degrees. 27 degrees, and I think they are expecting some overcast and possible snow. So yeah, this is gonna be a cold game. Looking at this, I agree with you. I want to. For me, it's a heart brain dilemma as well. I want to say it's Tampa Bay. I want to say it's Green Bay, but we all really know that it's going to be the Tampa Bay Bradyneers that are going to win this game and go on to be NFC champions. And Tom Brady will become the first quarterback to win conference championships on both sides. Just putting that out there, and will advance to a Super Bowl. So it's going to be an interesting game, though. Definitely make sure to check it out, though. 3:05 on Fox. It's going to be a heck of a game. Man, it's going to be so cold. I can't imagine 27 degrees. Ugh, that sounds horrible. But in our next game, we have our late game that will be taking place at 6:40 p.m. on CBS. That's right. It's our AFC Championship game between the Bills and the Chiefs. And this one's going to be interesting. We thought that Tampa Bay, Green Bay was going to be interesting, but this one, you have probably one of the most talented quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes in the Kansas City offense, taking on a very nasty Bills defense that's been able to get it done all year long. So, and let's not forget Josh Allen, who was voted as the most improved player of the year. So can't count him out, especially when you got Stephon Diggs. So this game's going to be crazy, man. What are your thoughts on it?
this is probably the most exciting matchup that I've been looking forward to in a while, just because of the fact that you've got the mighty powerhouse and the Chiefs, and in kind of their situation, what's going on with Pat Mahomes, and he had that neck issue in the previous game. They didn't know in the media, they didn't know if he's gonna be ready. This man's gonna be ready. He's not going to, even though they're having a third party doctor come in and review him before the game. He's going to be convinced with maybe a couple of Benjamins that, hey, let's let this guy play. So regardless of what Pat Mahomes' health is, it's not of will he play, it's how healthy will he be. Because as you could see the difference when Mahomes was in versus when Henny was playing for the Chiefs. So
absolutely.
And the Bills defense is going to prey on that. If Mahomes goes out for any portion of this game, don't be surprised if you see the Bills defense take advantage. But really the most impressive part about what this run has been for the Bills is everyone for the last couple of years talked about how good the Bills defense is, how up and down Josh Allen has been. And man, they don't have a whole lot of weapons. Well, now they do. Stephon Diggs out there is really kind of almost single-handedly changed this offense.
Seriously.
And you look at what this Bills offense now looks like. Yeah, they don't run the ball a whole lot, but I mean, when you're averaging 300 passing yards a game and Josh Allen in the playoffs is 530 yards and 3 touchdowns, I mean, no picks. This game right here is going to go on the shoulders of Josh Allen.
Absolutely.
So I don't think it has anything to do, because you know what the Chiefs are going to do, but this game is literally all about Josh Allen. If he can be mistake-free, if he can control the clock enough to keep Mahomes and company off the field, I think the Bills have a extremely good chance of making it back to the Super Bowl for the first time since we were like little tykes. First time since the early 90s.
Well, the thing I look at too is that if Josh Allen wants to stay in this game, he's going to have the announcers screaming constantly, touchdown! Because you're going to need some points to keep up with Kansas City. I feel like this could end up turning into a possible shootout of some kind. Don't be surprised. I know people always say, oh, but they got great defense over there at Buffalo. That's great, but you're in playoff football now, and anything is possible, especially with vaunted offenses like this. So, Josh Allen's going to have to play his absolute best game to be able to have a shot, but they have a legitimate shot, and that's the best part of it. Looking at some of the comments, Jimmy saying that he wants the Chiefs to lose. He just doesn't want it to go down that way just because, Raider Nation, baby. So, it is what it is. And Devin, thank you for joining the chat, saying that his heart is torn between Buffalo and Kansas City. Thinks it'll be Kansas City, though, as long as Mahomes doesn't have any carryover effects from his concussion. And that's a big thing. But the big thing I look at, it was not a concussion. People are trying to push this idea that it was a concussion. It was not a concussion. All it was a nerve pinch that he was able to get dealt with. And trust me, I know. I got one in my hip right now. It's why I'm sitting so far back. So... and it can leave you feeling the way he did, where your legs feel like jelly. You're really woozy because, you're pinching a nerve. That's going to affect your entire central nervous system, and he's going to have those kind of concussion-like effects. However, there is no long-lasting effect, which is why he was able to pass through concussion protocol so quickly. No one ever goes through concussion protocol that quickly. Everybody's screaming, oh, the NFL, they're just trying to get Patrick Mahomes to play. They don't care about health. No, they do care about his health. It's not a concussion. So
And he's literally the face. He's literally going to be the face of the NFL moving forward, especially once all like Brady and Breeze and Rivers now like all retiring. He's the face of the NFL. There's no way they're going to put him in that much peril just for a game. Just, it's a little ridiculous, but I understand and I see where people come from for that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I could definitely understand that type of point of view. But at the end of the day, these doctors are going to do what they need to, because you got to remember they have their own laws and procedures and things they have to follow. They're not going to put their job on the line like that. Maybe Roger Goodell, he has millions, but beyond that, I don't see it. So at the end of the day, this is going to be a battle of whose offense can get the ball down the field better. And I think that both teams are going to be able to move the ball pretty well, but I think the Chiefs are just going to be able to possibly outlast them. But the Bills, man, my heart wants to say, Bills, you got this. It's been so long. It's been since the early 90s. Even though, funny stat, it seems like every 27 years the Bills and Chiefs play for the AFC title. sorry, didn't make it up. They played 27 years ago for the title, and then 27 years before that too. So hey, I don't make it up. So
that's funny because I don't remember the Chiefs being that good 27 years. Oh, that was the Joe Montana year.
There you go. That was the Joe Montana year.
That took me a second.
Got him. So
I was like, wait, that was 90. Oh yeah, yep, that was Joe.
And still showing it like Tom Brady that he has the ability to be able to go to another team and be successful. So that being said, though, this is going to be a very interesting game. But Craig, who do you think ultimately wins this game?
Man, just like with the other game, my heart and my head are pulling me in two different directions. I'm absolutely with Devin here. Like my heart tells me that I want the Bills. I would love to see the Bills win the game, get into the Super Bowl, and even I want to see them win the Super Bowl because that fan base has gone through so much since their Super Bowl run of consecutive Super Bowls in the 80s, 90s. I would love to see that fan base get a Super Bowl. My heart tells me I want to pick them, but this is literally going to go. There's going to be two catalysts for this. One I already mentioned is Josh Allen. The other one's going to be the health of Pat Mahomes. Mm-hmm. If Pat Mahomes looks like the Pat Mahomes we are accustomed to seeing, I'm going to have to take the Chiefs. But if they can get Mahomes off the field for any length of time, then the Bills have a much better shot, and I think they'll win. So I'm going to assume that Pat Mahomes stays healthy the entire game, and I'm going to have to pick the Chiefs in an extremely close game. High-scoring game, probably in the 30s and 40s, but I'm going to take the Chiefs to win and move on to the Super Bowl.
Oof, and I definitely could see it happen because I have also picked the Chiefs to win this game. You can't count out the Patrick Mahomes effect. Honestly, if he plays anywhere near what he's been playing, he'll be fine, and he's going to win this game. I think it could be a moderately scoring game, but either way, the Chiefs are going to be able to edge this one out and make it happen. So definitely going to be very interesting. Looking at some of the comments in the chat, which we thank you guys so much for being active in the chat. George, who am I looking at here? Jimmy and George are both resigning themselves to being Bills fans today, even though George's saying it hurts being a Dolphins fan, but they both think the Bills can pull it off. Carolina coming on, though, and saying that she thinks Kansas City can take it without a doubt.
No doubt, she says. No doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. So, and George, Roger Goodell equals Vincent Kennedy. I'm assuming McMahon. So, it's too good, man. See, I gotta get a "you're fired" sound bit on here, man. We gotta expand this soundboard a little bit. Maybe we'll do that for the next show.
I think we can do that.
Yeah, because right now the soundboard's just. But it's all good. So
it's ever improving.
It's ever improving. But there has already been some news for the teams not making a run to the Super Bowl, and we call that the NFL coaching carousel. And what a carousel it has been.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to touch on the GM moves first, and really just kind of that's all we're really going to go on is touch on. You'll be able to see a graphic here, kind of showing the most recent moves, and really just some of the big ones. Obviously, with Houston Texans, Bill O'Brien's out, Nick Caserio's in. So Nick Caserio's been part of the Patriots organization for 20 plus years. Most recently, the director of player personnel out there. And Denver Broncos, George Patton is in. And really because John Elway's kind of taken more of a step into a ownership role versus stepping away. Like he's allowing someone else to take over the play, the calling, what's the word I'm looking at? The roster move duties of Elway really wants to spend more time with his family, but George Patton's been with the Vikings organization for 14 years, been the assistant general manager and the VP of player personnel. The Lions hire Brad Holmes, who's the director of college scouting for the Rams. He's served in various roles for the Rams over the past 18 years. Obviously, he is replacing Bob Quinn in that role.
Absolutely. It definitely been crazy. Look at the Carolina Panthers, who also got Scott Fitterer, who's the VP of the Seahawks football operations. It definitely comes with a lot of experience, hoping to turn that franchise around. As well as the Atlanta Falcons taking on Terry Fentonot, the Saints assistant GM VP of pro personnel. So definitely a lot of...
You mean Fontenot?
Fontenot. Whatever.
Fontenot. The T is silent.
See, we're not doing an NFL name quiz, though. I'm saying that now. All right. But he definitely has a lot of experience having helped build up the Saints and everything they've been able to do over these past so many years. So I think that could be a very big pickup for Atlanta.
Absolutely. A couple other ones we want to just touch on here. You see on your screen, the Washington football team, they haven't had a GM for a couple of years. They fired their GM Scott McCloud in 2017, and now they finally hired Martin Mayhew, the 49ers executive. He was formerly the GM of the Lions from 2008 to 2015, and over that span went 47-81. He had 2 10-win or more seasons and a 10 and 11 win season with 2 wild card appearances. Oh, and he drafted one Matthew Stafford. And then one I actually missed was the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trent Bulk. So he was the interim general manager. They just made him the full general manager. He took over for Dave Caldwell, who was fired near the end of the 2020 season.
Absolutely. So definitely going to be some interesting moves to see how these are going to work out, especially with some recent news that we've gotten in the past 24 to 48 hours, which we'll touch on more here a little bit later. But looking at the coaching side of things, it has been busy, and I think one of the most notable pickups has been Urban Meyer to Jacksonville. That one I think has really turned a lot of heads, more so than not. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Doug Marrone's firing was way overdue. I mean, even when they made the AFC title run, you could tell that Doug Marrone after that was just it's not the type of coach. He doesn't make the right decisions in that spot. So I think that was definitely long overdue. I've been very vocal about this. I hate this move to pull on Urban Meyer because the only reason they're pulling Urban Meyer in is so they were convincing him to come on because they want to draft Trevor Lawrence at number 1. And Urban Meyer, you've seen the track record with him. When things are not going well, or this actually might be a good move for him because in college, you can get in trouble for doing stuff you're not supposed to do from a student athlete standpoint. But now they're all professionals. You can kind of get away with a little bit more. But he's kind of a slimy guy. Everybody kind of knows that from how he handles his business. But also don't be surprised if things go bad. He might have more quote unquote health issues that he will step away at almost immediately. So I think this is a pretty bad idea to pull him in. He's also, from kind of what I've been reading and you kind of what you've heard over the last couple of years, he's more of a dictator kind of thing when it comes to players. Some players really love him, others not so much. So I think this is going to be more of a Harbaugh situation where maybe he'll get some wins out of this and get some guys to play well, the young guys. But I think the veterans and the guys who have been around a while, I don't think this is going to work for them.
Well, in that respect, though, is why I think Urban Meyer might have a completely different approach to how he's going to do this. Because you got to remember, he's never coached in pro football. So this is a different animal where there's players that are on the level of even college coaches, where they are that intelligent with their football IQ to know what's going on and can run a team if needed. I mean, come on, look at Josh McCown. He's been getting head coaching interviews, and he was a backup quarterback for the Eagles last year. So when you look at it, Urban Meyer is going to have to change his approach. If he doesn't, he's going to get eaten alive and I think be gone in 2 years, just because veterans aren't going to want to deal with him, and then no one's going to want to play with him. But the big thing I look at is that he only signed a 4-year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which, funny, how long are rookie contracts? Oh, yeah, 4 deals. So if Trevor Lawrence doesn't work out in those first 4 years, Urban Meyer is gone. Calling it now.
And we know in the NFL, it's not what have you done is what have you done for me this year, which is what we've seen with other firings, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, I'm with you. I think he'll only last about 2 years. I don't think this will go very well, but the Jaguars were very quick to kind of move and pick up Urban Meyer. When I think, especially when you're supposedly drafting Trevor Lawrence is what all signs are pointing to.
Yes.
Why not go get a guy who's a little bit more of, I wouldn't have been mad if they went and got maybe other offensive coordinators who were hired by other teams, maybe an Arthur Smith, Nick Sirianni, or even the guy who's been on a lot of lists is Eric Bieniemy for the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Why not wait to kind of get him? But I understand what Jags wanted to they want their guy. They want to make sure they can start planning for the draft. I'm not a fan of the move, but hey, they feel that it's okay.
Yeah, but looking at some of these other pickups, the Jets finally had gotten rid of Adam Gase, which I think also was long overdue. I don't know how you get that far into a season with that many losses and not get fired. But the Jets turn around and pick up the 49ers defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, and he, I think, is going to be able to really help change the culture of this team. And this could be exactly what the Jets need.
I think for this, I'm not mad at this move because I know Robert Saleh's been attached to a lot of other jobs, Detroit included. I didn't want him in Detroit just because it just has the same old feel of he's just a high energy guy and he comes in like, is he going to make a difference? I don't know. It really depends on the coordinators they bring in. I didn't see if the Jets have brought in an offensive coordinator just yet, but I understand why he's a very popular hire right now. I'm not a huge proponent. I think it's good to get him a shot, and it's good to get him in the Jets. I mean, he's got some weapons there on offense, very few, but it's more of they're just trying to change their culture, and they got a guy who they think can do it. So we knew he was going to go somewhere this year. We just didn't know where. Now we know he's going to the New York Jets.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be interesting because the Jets did try to pride themselves on defense more so than their offense. So I think they are trying to keep with their culture in that respect. However, my only fear with this is that if you don't find a good offensive coordinator to be able to get Sam Darnold going, this might end up being a repeat of last year's campaign with maybe a couple more wins. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how it works out, but it's going to be a wait and see kind of approach. But looking at some of these other setups, see who do we got left on the next on the graphic. Atlanta with Dan Quinn getting ousted and bringing in Arthur Smith. Definitely an interesting move here. He was the former Titans offensive coordinator, so obviously a lot of success there. But what's weird to me about this move is that as offensive coordinator of the Titans, you had a subpar quarterback, or maybe even mediocre, and a great running game, and it was all about pounding the football. However, the Atlanta Falcons offense and their roster is set up for a passing attack with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. So I'm kind of interested to see if Arthur Smith's going to try and change his approach or if he's going to try and change this team to fit his approach. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, this also to me tells me that Matt Ryan's days in Atlanta are probably numbered.
Yes.
Because of the fact of the differing philosophies. You see how, and now part of that could have been Arthur Smith was running what the head coach wanted to run, Mike Vrabel. That it's very possible that that's what he could have done. So just like you, I will be interested to see, does he still try to go with that same formula they did in Tennessee, or was he kind of just handcuffed to what Vrabel wanted, and now he can kind of let loose and create a new identity for himself and continue what the Atlanta Falcons want to do.
Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, but I have to agree. Matt Ryan's days are sadly numbered, and I think he could end up getting moved, especially now that they haven't been able to get over the hump since going to the Super Bowl. It's going to be interesting to see how it works forward. And there's some quarterbacks coming out in the draft now, so who knows? But looking at your Detroit Lions, I'll let you go ahead and take the front on that one.
Sure. Well, obviously, if you follow the Detroit Lions over the last couple of years, again, another regime change, another dumpster fire. Matt Patricia is out. Darrell Bevell was the interim head coach there. They chose not to go with Darrell Bevell as the full-on head coach. So they actually hired Saints associate head coach and tight ends coach Dan Campbell to be the head coach of the Detroit Lions moving forward. He had a great press conference.
Yeah, he did.
That's all I got. I mean, I'm not as a diehard Lions fan, I am not super confident in this pick, even though I don't care if you've got if you have the greatest press conference in the world, we're going to bite people's kneecaps off.
That was great.
I like the grit. I like how it made Sports Center and talked about that, but I want to see it on the field. I want to see you make the moves necessary. And they're in a complete rebuild. So I am not, I shouldn't say I don't have faith, but I don't have any confidence in the fact that this team is going to get better next year because they're talking about blowing everything up in a complete rebuild. Yeah, I mean, they're just giving jobs to anybody now. I would have liked to have waited. I'm dead serious. Like, because we talk about the other notable hires in a second. They hired somebody out of left field for the defense coordinator. So I'm just,
but you got a
they're
good
just giving jobs.
Coordinator.
They're just giving jobs to almost anybody. That's the one move I actually do like.
Oh yeah.
Which is why I have a little bit of hope there. But yeah, they're giving jobs to anybody. So I would have liked to have waited and interviewed. They didn't even. I don't even think they canceled the interview with Eric Bieniemy. They didn't even wait to go get a guy. They didn't interview a ton of guys. They interviewed some, but I'm not a huge fan of the move, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
Well, I think it really came down to the fact that Detroit wanted to get a guy and get him in ASAP, because now you're going to be looking down the barrel of a huge trade, which we'll touch on more later. And like you said, this whole team's probably going to get blown up next year. Yeah, it's going to be a dumpster fire, and you guys probably are only going to get a couple of wins, if that. But you got to look past that to the next year, to the year after. And I think Detroit does have a possibility if this. Obviously, if Campbell is lacking in his abilities to do a press conference, I hope he can make up for with his coaching. That if they are that gritty and ready to bite some kneecaps off, that this might be a nasty team. That at least if they're not going to be the ones that are able to march up and down the field, they're going to be the nastiest ones to do it. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of culture he's going to instill here in Detroit. I'd love to see Detroit actually be good for once. You know, I know a lot of Detroit fans look back to the Barry Sanders days and the Megatron days and thought, you know, we were close at one point, that we were on the cusp, and then everything fell apart. But, you know, again, I think it comes down to the Detroit front office making some bad moves and just not getting the right people in place.
And a question that came up in the chat, and Devin's comment is kind of echoing exactly what I was saying. Not really a huge fan of the hires. The only one we do like is the offensive coordinator hire. But Jimmy asked how many wins did the Lions get? And I've had some conversations in the last couple of days about this. With Matt Stafford, this team, you see what this team is. I mean, they don't have a lot of wins, right? Maybe 6-7 wins is the ceiling.
Right.
Without Stafford, he covered up so many holes. The Lions have one wide receiver on contract for next year. And then you get rid of Stafford. Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia have gutted this organization. The Lions are easily the least talented football team in the NFL now without Stafford. If Stafford's gone, 2 wins, 3 wins tops. Like, this team is absolutely terrible without Stafford. And now they've got some cap space. Yeah, but they've got a lot of guys leaving. Galladay is probably gone. Marvin Jones is probably gone. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are going to be out the door. This team is going to be terrible, and this is a complete rebuild. We're going back so far as I'm not going to say 0-16, but there's probably 2 or 3 wins tops on this team.
Wait. So even though the Jags and Jets did worse, are you saying that Detroit could possibly perfect crap team perfection?
I think it's possible the Lions could go 0-16 for multiple times for the first time ever for any franchise.
Oh, dude, that'd be the ultimate crap team perfection.
Yes. Oh, John. So John asked are they worse than the Texans? Right now, yes, because it depends on if the Texans do decide to keep Watson, which I know that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah, I mean, the Lions, I think, are the least talented team of any team in the NFL. That's throwing out the 1-win Jags. I think the Jags can beat the Lions without Stafford. That's throwing out the Texans. And now that depends on who their quarterback is, because I know but the Texans did beat the Lions this year pretty handily.
Oh, that's true.
That's out there. The Jets have hammered the Lions under Matt Patricia. We saw that with Sam Darnold. Absolutely. The Lions are easily the worst team now without Stafford in the NFL, hands down.
And as Devin just pointed out in the chat, Kenny Galladay is also not coming back. So definitely taking yet another hit. Yeah, that's just so crazy to me. But you know, hey, who knows, man? You know, it's why the games are played. Maybe you'll be okay next year. Maybe.
Not looking forward to it.
Well, hey, at least you got Michigan.
Moving on. So let's talk a little bit. So yeah, LA Chargers is another one we want to touch on before we move on here. Anthony Lynn is out. Brandon Staley, who's the Rams defensive coordinator, is in. I was a little surprised they moved so quickly on here. I didn't get the appeal because I think the Rams defense was more attributed to their talent level versus the scheme.
Absolutely.
So this was a real big head scratcher for me for the Chargers getting Staley. And is it because we see a lot of teams do this where the previous regime was offensive based. Now the next regime has to be defensive based. Like that to me doesn't make a lot of sense. This is the biggest head scratcher for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting move, especially with the LA Chargers wanting to try and be an offensive-minded team, especially having Justin Herbert now as your pivot man. So it's very interesting that they pick a defensive-minded guy to come in, unless they really feel that the defense is that bad and that they don't have that much issue with the offense. But again, it's going to come down to whoever they hire as their offensive coordinator and how much power that Brandon Staley is going to give them.
And this is really crucial for Justin Herbert's development, because if you don't have a solid offensive mind you're going to run into a Sam Darnold situation, or name any other first round quarterback that's had 4 or 5 different coordinators, which is like a lot of them over the last 10 years. You're really going to run into some issues because just that talent alone is not going to push the whole offense forward. You still need a good mind back there in the headset of that young quarterback to make his improvements. And that's the most important part of the position on the field is the quarterback.
Absolutely.
And so you go out and get a no-name defensive coordinator who not really sure if this was a great hire. I don't like this move for the Chargers, but they clearly feel that it is.
Yeah, they, for whatever reason, feel that it is, but I don't think it's going to work out in their favor, and they may end up wasting some of the best years Justin Herbert has in his young career. So, I mean, we're going to see how it'll work out, but again, that's why the games are played. But looking at our next one, and this one I do kind of hold near and dear. The Philadelphia Eagles did fire Doug Peterson, which we mentioned. It is about what you've done for me super lately, because don't forget, the Eagles are only a few years removed from winning a Super Bowl. Yet now we are firing our head coach because he just can't get it going with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz had requested a trade and all that. However, everybody's saying, oh, well, they went and got the guy because they don't plan to trade him. That doesn't mean Wentz still doesn't want a trade. And that is something that has not been commented on yet. Wentz has not said a word since his hiring has taken place. And, I mean, Carson Wentz might still be out the door because this could end up being the Jalen Hurts show for all we know. Or who knows? The Eagles may make a crazy move, maybe go get Stafford or Watson or something crazy, but who knows? But don't be surprised if Wentz is still moved. Now, obviously, the Eagles organization wants to try and keep Wentz and try and make it work because obviously that's the guy they drafted. It's the guy they invested in. It's the guy they put all that money up for. But that doesn't mean he's still going to want to stay. So, we'll see how it works out. There's going to be a lot more coming out in the next few days, but I think this hiring is a good hiring. Nick Sirianni, working with Frank Reich, who was the former offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. So honestly, there should be some type of familiarity with whatever scheme that Nick's going to bring in, unless he changes it up completely. But I don't imagine they'd bring him in unless he had plans already for Wentz. So it's going to be interesting. Stick it out, Eagles fans. We'll see what happens. There's still a lot left to be figured out because I do want to see also who he's going to bring in to be some of his coordinators because that really also could help with the situation. They've already made a move with their defensive coordinator, but the offensive coordinator is the one I'm looking at.
This to me, so first and foremost, I want to put this out there. We've had conversations before I went away for a couple weeks about who's going to win out, Wentz versus Peterson, who's going to get fired, who's going to get moved. Mm-hmm. You gave me a hard time when I said Peterson would go first, and look what happened.
Yeah, you ain't lying.
You gave me a hard time. But no, yeah, I agree. Wentz is still out the door. That bridge is already burned. But this to me is it's not as serious to me of a head scratcher as the Chargers move, but it's still a head scratcher to me because you mentioned the connection with Frank Reich. I think that's part of the whole reason why he got this job.
Of course,
Sirianni. But so why not wait? If you want to go offensive route, why not wait until Bieniemy is available, or even the offensive coordinator for the Dabble, right?
Yeah.
Wait till he's available. Like, wait until you can interview. Like, why not wait for some of the most successful offenses, the masterminds, to get available? This was way too quick of a move, in my opinion, but I could see why they picked it. And I think it's all about the connection with Frank Reich there. And I'm not, that's not to say he's not talented. Sirianni, obviously, this guy is in a much better spot than we are sitting here talking about it.
Look what he did with Phillip Rivers. I mean,
Phillip Rivers was still talented to begin with. Like,
that man can't throw a ball past 50 yards. Come on now. That you literally had to curtail his whole offense to be able to fit Phillip Rivers because he was aging, and look, now he's retired. So, he was able to squeeze enough out of him to get to the playoffs.
When they brought him in, they knew he wasn't going to be able to bomb the ball down the field like he could early in his career. Like, they knew that wasn't going to happen. So it didn't matter who the OC was, because you have to cater your offense to his skill set now anyway. But yeah, I could see why. I'm really interested to see what they do now that you got your head coach in place. Now it's wait and see to hear from Carson Wentz. What are you going to do there? And what's going to happen? Are they going to end up going with Jalen Hurts? John said Roseman should have been fired as well since they weren't getting along. Absolutely. We thought he was going to get fired too. I'm really surprised Roseman's not gone already.
I know why he's not.
And
it's only because they did win that Super Bowl and because Howie doesn't get to call the plays on the field. Those are the only reasons I think that he didn't get fired. Outside of that, he should have been fired, in my opinion. But outside of that, they're going to give him another year to see what he can do. Now they have a new head coach in, see if they can get some player personnel that are going to be able to fit his schemes and see what happens. Because I can tell you right now, if they're not able to have some kind of success in the next 2 years, Howie is gone no matter what. Doesn't matter anything. He's gone. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But I have hope. I think it's definitely better than what the Chargers did. But it's going to be interesting no matter what. I still don't think next year is going to be the greatest of years, but I mean, we'll see what happens. But looking at our next one.
Go ahead.
You're looking at our next one, though. We had one opening left right now that we can currently see, and that is with the Houston Texans, who got rid of Bill O'Brien. And Bill O'Brien is actually moving on, and I believe in joining the Alabama staff now. But Houston still hasn't hired anybody. And maybe, and this is just me spitballing, being very hopeful for the Houston franchise, that maybe they are being the only team that's going to try and wait out for one of these big name coordinators like Bellini in Kansas City to try and get a real coach that can really do something with Deshaun Watson. Because I think the hope is right now that maybe they can find someone to work with Deshaun Watson in hopes that he'll stay. However, I don't think Deshaun's staying I don't think he's staying. He's gone, in my opinion. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Deshaun Watson either wanted going to the Jets or Miami or wherever he wants to go now, which is strange on both fronts to me. But, hey.
Miami would make a hell of a lot of sense for him. Yeah. The Jets, if you say you want to go to the Jets, that's how desperate you are to get out of Houston.
That's what I thought. So, looking at it, Deshaun's going to end up getting moved, and the Texans are going to be looking for a new quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. But Houston better be playing their cards right, because they need to get it right this time, or they're going to see their entire team start to just fracture and fall apart. Starting with Deshaun Watson, and it possibly could end with J.J. Watt. Who knows? And it's something they seriously have to look at, because with all the decisions they've made these past few years have been horrific and self-damaging to the max. And I feel bad for Texans fans. I really do.
Yeah. This is really going to be, they clearly have met and decided that this is not going to be the best moving forward, but the Texans do have a few that they're going to be interviewing. Leslie Frazier is being targeted to be interviewed here as soon as the Bills have either been eliminated or win the Super Bowl. And he's in play. They've already met with former head coach Jim Caldwell, which I think would be a great hire wherever he goes. Obviously, they're still working on Eric Bieniemy. And Dave Culley, who's the passing game coordinator for the Ravens, is under consideration as well. So there's a few names that are out there.
Oh, we got to throw the big name out there, though. Houston is going to interview Josh McCown for their head coaching candidacy as well, because, hey, man, Josh McCown, I don't know. There's no reason I feel like he should be interviewing Josh McCown. he has no coaching experience at all.
That's true. He's had no coaching experience. I wouldn't be surprised if he does link up with somebody to be to be a coordinator or something. But yeah, that's one of those moves where it's like in the NBA, you hire Steve Nash to be the head coach of the Nets, even though he's had zero head coaching experience, and you're going based off just his playing days. So that's a weird one to me. But hey, he's got a lot of respect in circles in all the teams that he's played on. So I could see the draw there. I could see the draw there, but they got a lot of work. They got to figure out a destination for Deshaun Watson or somehow just really mend that bridge that has been absolutely obliterated to this point.
Yeah, it definitely has. But some other notable hires that we've been seeing around the league, the Dallas Cowboys picked up former Falcons head coach Dan Quinn to be their defensive coordinator. We saw your Detroit Lions makes 2 moves, one of which makes sense. The other one, I don't really know. Like we said with the Saints, DB's coach Aaron Glenn becoming defensive coordinator, but the bigger one, former Chargers head coach Anthony Lynn is now your offensive coordinator. I think that could play to your strengths, guys. Come on.
I like the Lynn. I like the Lynn move. The Aaron Glenn move is like, hey, you're the water boy from there. Yeah, come on. I got a head coaching job for you. Come on in. Like, you want a coordinator job? Hey, you on the street, you want a coordinator job? Yeah, come on in. Let's go.
Maybe Detroit, for some reason, maybe they have like some type of Matt Patricia leftover effect where they think they can be Bill Belichick and just pull, grocery guys out of the grocery store and, come play for them or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Aaron Glenn's well respected as a coach to my knowledge. I mean, I haven't seen anything to the contrary, but he doesn't have a lot of experience in that role. And the Saints DBs, they don't do a lot scheme wise that would get me really excited about him being a defensive coordinator. That's just my 2 cents on it. It's just weird to me.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
But yeah, other moves that we saw, Gus Bradley moved from the Chargers DC to now the Raiders DC. I think that's a really good move. Gus Bradley's a great defensive coordinator. He's just not a good head coach, as we saw in Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Jacksonville, they hired Darrell Bevell as their offensive coordinator. I love this move. Darrell Bevell he's a good offensive coordinator. I think he did pretty well in his interim role as the head coach. I'm really excited to see how that's going to play out with him getting Trevor Lawrence. They had Robinson, who should have been rookie of the year, heavily considered, should have had over 1,000 yards, but they benched him for some stupid reason because they wanted to lose more games. That shows you the status of where the Jags are at right now.
I mean, they hired
the Rams. Look
at him.
Yeah, that's true. Raheem Morris, who was the interim head coach for the Falcons this last year, is going to the Rams as DC. I like that move. I think that's a really good move as well. And your Eagles, they hired who?
Jonathan Gannon, the DB's coach for the Colts as defensive coordinator. And right now, the Philadelphia Eagles are also heavily looking at the quarterback's coach for the Colts to come over as offensive coordinator. Recently came across my phone. So it's going to be interesting what the Eagles end up with next year. I just hope we don't end up at the bottom of the cellar. I swear. If we end up in the bottom of the NFC East, I'm going to be so sad because we're already there. We need to get out. Oh, me. But definitely a lot of crazy stuff going on. Oh, craziness.
Yeah, real quick, want to address one question. Of course, we have to move on because this is a lot of fun. We love doing this, but we got to get this show moving. John asked about Arthur Smith in Atlanta. We kind of already touched on it, Arthur, but we'll just real quick touch on it. Do you see him trading down to get a DB or a running back? And this depends on his coaching philosophy. If he continues what they were doing in Tennessee, they probably will try to bring in a running back or something because that's something they've been lacking. But this could be if he decides, if he was being just kind of handcuffed by Vrabel, this is what he wants to run. I'm really going to be intrigued to see what kind of offense they'll run there.
Absolutely. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how that works out. And philosophy is going to play a lot into how the draft will go, into how free agency is going to work out. But we also got to see how a lot of teams are going to work out with, like we've mentioned, a few people have mentioned now in our chat, the cap hell that some of these teams are in. So it's going to be very interesting once we hit the offseason to see what moves these teams are going to make. I'm definitely
and your Eagles are in that too.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah,
so,
the Rams have been talked about here. The Texans aren't really in a good spot. The Saints are in a terrible spot. That's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about one thing real quick because we want to move on to some college football. We got to talk about where you can get some awesome Final Score and Podcast City Network merchandise.
Yeah.
Whether you want to get a neck gaiter to save yourself as best as possible from COVID-19, you want to get a mug for your morning coffee, or you just want a t-shirt, you want to represent the team here at Final Score, we've got you covered at the PCN shop. Get all the latest apparel and gear for your favorite podcast and for Podcast City Network by visiting podcastcity.net/shop and checking out the lineup of latest merch.
Yes, definitely check out all the great stuff that we have over there, including the #DownWithCFP shirt. A lot of great stuff going on there. But speaking of the CFP, we got to talk about college football and the crazy coaching carousel they are going through right now. It's still in its early stages, a lot still to be figured out. But there's been some craziness already happening in college football, starting at the very top, which this one I think we touched on a week or so ago, with Alabama offensive coordinator and former USC and Washington head coach Steve Sarkisian has been hired by Texas to be their new head coach after they fired Tom Herman. So huge move for Texas to try and bring in Steve Sarkisian. I hope he can stay off the sauce, but we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts on that move?
That's pretty surprising. They moved. We were talking about this as it happened. It happened so quickly that Texas moved away from Herman and went to Sarkisian.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Herman did well. He just didn't do well against top teams, which is what Texas cares about.
Yes.
They're still on the level of the Texas, USC, Michigan. I put all three of those in the same pot where your expectations are way up here, but in reality, your reality is way down here.
Exactly.
That's where Texas is to me, along with Michigan and USC. That's where those go. I was really surprised how fast they moved on this, but that's who they think their guy is. And I'm glad to see Sarkisian get another shot in college. But again, is he going to be able to keep his demons in check? That's really what kind of unraveled for him, especially at USC.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be something I'm sure that the entire athletic department at Texas is going to be keeping an eye on because we don't want to see him relapse in any kind of way, because I think he could honestly do a really great job in Texas. Definitely have some talent there to be able to work with. He's going to have to break in a new quarterback, though, but at least he has something there. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Notre Dame also lost its defensive coordinator in Clark Lee, who's going to Vanderbilt to be its head coach. That is his alma mater, so not too surprising of a move. But what's crazier is who Notre Dame was able to pull off to replace him, and that was the hottest defensive coordinator that was apparently on the market, and Marcus Freeman for Cincinnati, who's now coming over and apparently has already been making huge waves in recruiting for Notre Dame. So Irish fans,
that's big.
This could be really big for us because he's already starting to flip not only one of the top linebackers that's in this upcoming class, but also one of the best edge rushers they have. So this could be very, very big for Notre Dame.
That's a big one. He was, like you said, one of the hottest coordinators on the market, and that big move. You saw what Cincinnati's been able to do last couple of years. So that's a really, really good move. A couple of others swapped, basically one leaves, another one fills in. Oregon defensive coordinator Andy Avalos went to Boise State for the head coaching job because their current head coach, Brian Harrison, went to Auburn to replace Gus Malzahn. So that's a little nugget there. I think that's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Or Boise, you always like to see those kind of moves. I think that's an interesting move for Auburn to go get a guy from Boise. And they've had some success, but it's not what we're accustomed to seeing from Boise over the last 20 years or so.
Yeah, but they definitely were able to have a competitive offense, which I think is why maybe they made this move. Brian Harsin, known as an offensive mind. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works out in SEC country. But SEC country is going to see a lot of change here soon, which we'll get to that here in a little bit. But part of that change is they are going to see Alabama associate head coach and running backs coach Charles Huff leave to go become the head coach at Marshall, which Marshall had a great season last year. So he's definitely going to be inheriting a very talented group over there with the Thundering Herd.
Absolutely. Let me get this brought up here. I'm bringing up some other stuff there's some questions in the chat, and I'm bringing up my notes on those questions. So,
oh no, you're good. You're good. You keep working on that, because NFL assistant Brett Bielema, if you remember from Wisconsin lore, is now going to become the new Illinois head coach after Lovie Smith was ousted there. So definitely an interesting move. Brett Bielema definitely could probably get the Fighting Illini back on track, back to winning ways that they haven't been able to see in probably 15 to 20 years. So definitely a great move for Illinois there, as well as Alabama intern. Yeah, that's right. We said intern Butch Jones, the former Tennessee head coach, is now going to be the head coach at Arkansas State. However, a lot of people are literally giving this move an F, because Butch Jones has been noted as not having changed at all from his Tennessee days, which we know what he did to Tennessee and how he drove that program into the ground. And there's not a lot of hope he's going to be able to do anything real too successful with Arkansas State either. So it's definitely going to be very interesting.
Oops, I typed that wrong. I was trying to type
Obi-Wan Kenobi. What? Oh, so
yeah, I was trying to type But yeah, like the Butch Jones one, it's funny because this next move is also talking about Alabama. You see a lot of Alabama movement here because, I mean, that's literally what Nick Saban has set up, is that if you want to get another job, you go to Alabama and work a year or so under Nick Saban, and that just automatically gives you credibility that wasn't there before. Weird.
I mean, yeah, look at it. You've seen Steve Sarkisian do it. You've seen Lane Kiffin do it. Now we're seeing Butch Jones do it. It's becoming like Nick Saban's now starting to get marked as the coach rehabilitator almost.
And Bill O'Brien, which is the question that was asked in the chat about Bill O'Brien's move to Alabama. Mm-hmm. Is it a good move for Bill O'Brien? Absolutely, it's a good move, because now he's going to get a head coaching job somewhere. Is it a good move for Alabama? It doesn't, to me personally, doesn't matter mm-hmm. because their talent level is so much higher than everyone else. It doesn't matter who they put on the field because they're going to destroy everyone. It doesn't really matter. So, but that's just my 2 cents on that. I mean,
no, I have to absolutely agree with that.
Butch Jones Butch Jones as an intern is a complete joke, but I mean, it's good for him to go to a small school like Arkansas State. He can destroy that program and do whatever he wants. No one's really going to think about it. But the Bill O'Brien move, I'm wondering how long is he going to stay there? Probably only maybe a year or two. Then you'll see him in the running for head coaching jobs again.
Well, that's one thing you always see with any of these guys that end up with Nick Saban in Alabama, is that they're only there for a year or two and then they move on anyways. Like Lane Kiffin went to FAU, Sarkisian to Texas, and now we're seeing Charles Huff to Marshall, but also Butch Jones to Arkansas State. But it's going to be interesting. Bill O'Brien, while he probably won't jump back into the NFL, could definitely at least find a head coaching job in college. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But another guy who's able to find some work as a head coach was the Indiana defensive coordinator with probably the coolest name, Kane Womack, who's now the South Alabama head coach. And the reason that this is important in any kind of way is that he is now the youngest head coach in FBS football at 33 years of age. Let me English today. So that's huge when you think about that. 33 years old and you're the head coach of a university's football program. So, man, hats off to you. You made it happen.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then and Indiana's rise for the last year in the Big Ten, regardless, because other programs were down, however you want to look at it. But this is really cool for him to see that success at a young age, considering young age in the head coaching ranks. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely going to be interesting.
So that's a pretty good move.
Oh, for sure. And when we look at Tennessee and that craziness going on. Tennessee, if you do not know, did fire their head coach, Jeremy Pruitt, after a big scandal broke that involved literally giving recruits money in McDonald's bags to try and convince them to come to Tennessee and play for the Vols. Obviously, with that, they had to do a complete rebuild from top to bottom. They fired the head coach. A lot of the staff goes with it, as well as their athletic director, because Tennessee has now turned around and poached UCF's athletic director, Danny White, to come work at Tennessee. You think this is a good move?
For Danny White, this is a risky move, but it has a lot of potential. This has a ton of potential because, like I've told people, we have a lot of friends of the show that are big, like diehard UCF fans, and they all are like, "Why would he do this move? This was terrible. That's a dumpster fire." Yes, we understand that, but if you are in this type of position, you've hit your ceiling with UCF. Let's be completely real. Let's be completely honest and real for a second. Danny White has hit his ceiling for UCF. There's nothing more you can do at that school. You're not going to win a national championship in any sport unless it's a sport. You're not going to win it in the big men's powerhouse. We'll put it that way. You're not going to win it in college basketball. You're not going to win it in college football. That's where a lot of the big money makers are for these schools. Okay.
Absolutely. So
Danny White's ceiling, he's already hit it. Nowhere to go. But now you go into a spot in the Power 5, in the SEC, at a school like Tennessee that absolutely worships their sports, especially football.
Yep.
If you can turn that culture around and turn that football program around to even make them like in the conversation for a division title, not SEC, not championship, division title. That's it. If you can get them there and he can make them somewhat successful, this man will be considered a god in Tennessee sports, and he will be basically set for life.
And the big thing, too, is that he has to be able to win the big games. If you see them starting to beat the Georgias, the South Carolinas, the Floridas of the world, Tennessee's going to be back. And that's the one thing is that the Vols fans see their team get beat down year after year by these teams because they just don't have it anymore. And if he can get this team turned around and find the head coach that Danny White declares that will polish the Vols image, then he's going to have a tall order with that to begin with. But if he can get that to happen and he can get this program turned around, man, watch out for Tennessee Vols football, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. And obviously if you're paying attention, if you're a Tennessee fan, don't expect massive success right away. This is going to take time to rebuild a program that's probably going to have a lot of sanctions coming down the line. If they haven't already seen some already, they're going to be suspended from a lot of postseason opportunity for probably the next, God, I don't know, at least 5 years.
I mean,
I'd say at least 5.
It could happen.
You're talking about handing prospects money in a McDonald's bag. Like this is, yeah, I don't see a whole lot of Tennessee in postseason opportunity anytime soon.
And we'll definitely see what happens, and we'll report it here once we find out what does end up coming down for Tennessee and their football program. So definitely make sure to follow us on social media at PCN Final Score so you don't miss out. But, one thing that we know that is completely garbage with college football no matter what is the playoff. And it's funny because I've been finding a lot of stories where the crafter of the BCS, the person who actually created the BCS, along with notable people with links to the college football playoff selection committee, saying that, it is time. We showed it in 2020. It's time to expand the playoff. Most calling for an 8-team playoff. But you know what? I think it's still crazy that FCS still has a 24-team playoff and can still put emphasis on their regular season. Why can't we expand and just get this done? Why pull teeth? There's one person who said, no, I think we shouldn't do over 6 teams. They'll take away from everything. How? It's absolutely ridiculous because it needs to change. If you want it to be fair, if you want these non-Power 5s to have a shot, if you want even the teams that aren't normally at the top of the Power 5 conferences to have a shot, these 1-loss, 2-loss teams that end up being world beaters but just don't get that shot. I'm looking at you, Texas A&M, and I'm sorry it happened to you. But you look at it, it needs to change. So with that, we're boycotting the college football playoff. So you can go online and get your t-shirt today, take a selfie, tag Final Score, and use the hashtag #DownWithCFP. And you are
lucky that I have not been able to speak watching this all unfold over the last 2 weeks, because I agree that it needs to expand, but down with CFP seems like you want to abolish it completely.
Yes, because it needs to be replaced with something more realistic.
Expand the CFP is a little bit more realistic.
Nah,
but
take it down, replace it. We did it with the BCS. Let's do it with this too. Because the thing is, this is just BCS 2.0. That's all this is. You're still using a selection committee of random people who may or may not even have ties to football, because some of these are actually government officials that work in Washington and stuff like that. What business do you have in college football? And that's what kills me about this. So no, down with CFP, and let's replace it with something realistic. And if you take your pick and tag yourself, you may be featured on a future episode of Final Score. So get your shirt now, available now at podcastcity.net/shop. So yeah, definitely going to fight this thing because change needs to happen for reals. Because if we don't fight for it, it's not going to happen. That's just how it works.
It's not going to happen anyway. You'll see an expansion of the current playoff, but you won't see it getting abolished at all. There's too much money involved.
Oh, there's always too much money involved. People said the same thing about the BCS, and here we are. So change will happen. It's just going to take time because everybody sees it. And now in the world of social media and interconnectivity, it's only a matter of time. You can't ignore it now because, there's people that are able to actually make their voices more heard these days. I mean, hell, it's why we even do this show to begin with. So at the end of the day, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. Bow. So looking at that, though, we also have to look at all the great content platforms that we are on. Because, man, I'm not even joking. We're on so many now that it's even hard to keep track these days. So try and bear with us. But you can find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts, as well in video format on YouTube. All you have to do is go on any of those platforms, type in FinalScore, one word, and go ahead and give us a like and a follow there. That way you can catch up on all the greatest content that we put out week in and week out. But you can also find all of this in our central hub at podcastcity.net/FinalScore and check out all the great stuff that we have there. But it's now time that we have to pay homage because we did have some sadness happen just this past Friday. With the passing of the MLB great Hank Aaron. He passed away this past Friday in his sleep in his home in Atlanta at age 86. He was only 2 weeks away from his 87th birthday. If you're not familiar with Hank Aaron, then shame on you. You should know more about baseball. But he played 23 seasons in Major League Baseball with the Milwaukee/Atlanta Braves and then another 2 years with the Milwaukee Brewers. So I was able to finish his career where he started. But Hank Aaron was second all time with his home run, 755, which stood for 33 years before Barry Bonds went and broke that record. But he also was notable in a lot of areas on the field, being tied fourth with Babe Ruth in runs, third in hits, first in RBIs, first in total bases, first in extra base hits. This dude was able to do it all, and he led the major leagues in home runs 4 different times in his career, including in 57, 63, 66, and 67. But that 57 year, that one was really special because he won the NL MVP and the World Series with the Milwaukee Braves. So it's really a sad day to see this 3-time Golden Glove winner and Hall of Famer, leave us in this type of manner. But even off the field, Hank Aaron was an amazing person that tried to battle against adversity and racism to become one of the greatest baseball players of all time and home run king in Major League Baseball for so many years, even to the tune to where George W. Bush awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2002 for all of his work, battling against the adversity, battling against the racism, and all the things people would say about him. Because back in those days, that was a regular common thing, and it was something as simple as watching someone drink Coca-Cola, and it was horrible, but sadly was something he had to go through, but was able to make it through and was able to help make a lot of change for people of color all over the U.S. and help inspire people to become baseball players and get involved in sports and get involved in their communities. So absolutely sad day. What are your thoughts, Craig?
I think you touched on all of it. I mean, it's always sad when you see legends like this pass away. But just the impact that he had on the game of baseball and the impact that he had on just so many, like you said, on and off the field. It's always sad to see people of this stature pass away. And he will definitely be sorely missed in the world of not only baseball, but the world of sports. And, we extend our condolences, our thoughts and prayers to the Hank Aaron family. And while they're going through this tough time right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely never expect these kinds of things to happen. No matter how old you are, you never fully expect it or prepared for it. So
you never prepare. Yeah, prepared is a better word.
Yeah, he is survived though by his wife and 6 children, numerous grandchildren. So definitely our thoughts and condolences go out to them. But Hank Aaron, man, you are definitely a legend, and we definitely will miss you very, very much. And we're going to go ahead and just take a quick moment of silence for Hank Aaron. So yeah, definitely a sad day. But you know what? It's all right, though, because life does move on, and there'll be greats that are still going to look up to him and use what he did as motivation for their future. So no matter what, Hank Aaron is going to leave a lasting legacy, and that's one thing we all can be proud of. But looking forward, though, you got to make sure that you're able to keep up with our parent network. I know it's kind of hard to come out of all that, little bit of sadness there, but still, you can find out a lot of great things with Podcast City Network. Craig, what can you tell us about that?
Well, FinalScore is a proud member of Podcast City Network. Podcast City Network has 19 independent podcast members across all genres of podcasting. You can find more about our parent network, PCN, on all major social media platforms, facebook.com/Podcast City Network, Twitter @PodcastCityNet, and also on Instagram at Podcast City Net. You can find any of our episodes on YouTube. Just search keywords Podcast City Network. And of course, everything is always available on our website, podcastcity.net.
Absolutely. So definitely make sure to check all that out. A lot of great stuff from Podcast City Network. Just like the great stuff we're about to throw at you with the good old give or go. And sorry, Craig, we got to throw it right at you. Right off the top, the Detroit Lions have announced that the team and longtime quarterback Matt Stafford have mutually agreed to part ways and will shop the former number 1 pick this offseason. Give or go?
Well, this is probably the one topic we're going to give the most on, so let's just go ahead and dive right in. This happened kind of late yesterday. You and I were chatting, and then we were going to dinner, and on the way to dinner, I got this text that this news broke. So I was like, oh, crap. Girlfriend's gonna be so pissed because this is what I'm gonna be doing while dinner. But no, this is probably some of the best news and worst news for Lions fans everywhere. And then Michigan. So, but yeah, outside of Michigan, because most people don't really care about Detroit news outside of Michigan. But this is the best news because Matt Stafford and his wife and his family have done so much for the city of Detroit since they've been there. They've been through everything, thick and thin, some of the highs, a lot of the lows. They've been through so much, and they've given so much to the team and the city. And as Lions fans, we want to see Stafford have a chance to win a championship, be in a much better situation to a franchise that's actually going to give him an opportunity to win. So that's the great part. The worst part is we are now at some point going to lose the greatest quarterback, not named Bobby Lane, in Detroit Lions history. He's the only reason people don't know who Matt Stafford is or how good he has been in his career, because he plays in Detroit and they don't give him a lot of media fanfare. He started the no-look pass before Pat Mahomes. He's got stats that rival or are better than Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, all the big names in the NFL. He's had stats in his career that either rival or are better than, in some cases, than all of those guys. So this is really a tough thing for Stafford. But talking about, he's got 2 years left in a very team-friendly deal compared to other contracts that quarterbacks have.
Mm-hmm.
So the big topic here is, where do we think he's going to go? I've narrowed it down to only 4. You've got like half the league involved.
Well, it's because, I want to include those long shot teams, because everybody has a shot, right? We're in the day of participation trophies, right? So
no. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
So I've narrowed it down to 4 major destinations that I think would be possible. One of them being a long shot. I think the top of my list, people aren't really talking about this destination. Top of my list, Washington. And you're like, wait, why Washington? Think about this. Alex Smith he might be retiring. They don't have another quarterback, and they got a young defense, and they got, Ron Rivera's in that kind of a situation. But the key move that I think makes this kind of near the top of the list, the GM that drafted him, Martin Mayhew, is now the GM of Washington.
mm-hmm.
That's a big connection there. He's got a lot of faith in Matt Stafford. Clearly, they've put together some teams around him to at least make runs to the playoffs. And I think I haven't looked at the exact numbers for their cap situation. They have a lot of young talent on that team, so they may have enough cap space. It's really going to be, what are the Lions going to be asking for? Because now you've made it public. of we're going to be trading Stafford, you've kind of hurt your status there, because now if you say we want 2 or 3 first round picks, teams are going to go, well, no, we know you want to get rid of him. We're not going to offer that. So that's really the predicament the Lions put themselves in. But number one to me is going to be Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is the really popular team that a lot of people are talking about is Indianapolis. They're already primed for a title run. They've got a lot of talent there. They've got their window of opportunities now. Rivers is retiring, but I don't think they really have a whole ton of cap space to kind of work with, but that would be an intriguing spot for me. Number 3 is going to be New Orleans. They're going to be tough because they don't have a lot of cap. Breeze, we don't know if he's retiring or not, but if he retires, that could be a big destination. I would love to see that move. Stafford and Sean Payton, I think, would be a match made in heaven for Matt Stafford. So I think that's a pretty good move there. And my long shot, number 4, is going to be New England. They're a long shot because Belichick doesn't really like to buy high on people, likes to buy low on a lot of players. But I don't think you can count them out because Belichick still wants to win. He's not just going to let the last couple of years of his coaching career be wasted on nothing. So they're going to have a lot of guys come back next year that have opted out on defense. They do have a talented defense when they're all healthy. Now they got to find a quarterback. They got to find receivers. They got to rebuild that offense. Maybe bringing in Matt Stafford kind of helps be the catalyst to push them back into that championship picture.
Definitely could, and that would be interesting to see that happen. Now, I know you had your short list, and yeah, I know I involved half the league here, but it's because there's so many possibilities, I feel like, with how this is. Now, a lot of these are going to be long shots, but the top of my list right now is Indianapolis. With Phillip Rivers retiring and all those weapons, you're not going to turn it back over to Jacoby Brissett and go 8-8 again, I feel that Indianapolis, if they want to try and pull the trigger, stay competitive, you already made the move to where now you've taken the step to actually getting back into the playoffs. You want to try and stay there. And what better way than going and getting a guy with the talent that Matt Stafford has and actually having weapons for him? Who would have thought? And I think that if Matt Stafford wants to have success and make any kind of an actual playoff run, his best chance is going to be with Indianapolis. However, there are a lot of teams, like you mentioned, that are going to need help at quarterback. New England, as you see as a long shot, I don't see quite as much of a long shot just because I think now Robert Kraft has seen what selling low does to this team, and it didn't go very well. We already know Cam Newton did not do very well in New England, and he has already said he is not going to be there next season. So that leaves a huge void that the backup quarterbacks cannot fill. So what better way than go get an accomplished guy like Matt Stafford who can come in, who's used to working with nothing, and be able to come in and at least make this team a serviceable 8-8 or better team, especially if you can at least get 1 or 2 receivers and a little bit of help for him protection-wise. A lot of things could happen. But Washington, which I was looking up as you were talking about Washington currently is going to be looking at $35 million in cap space next season. So very, very realistic that they can make a move for a guy like Matt Stafford and be able to bring him in, because Alex Smith, as much as we love the story, as much as we love the comeback player of the year, he's not going to be a long-term solution just because of the same injuries. He's more of, sadly, a feel-good story now. Doesn't mean he still doesn't have gas in the tank, but I don't know if Washington's going to want to take that chance moving forward, especially if you have access to a guy like Stafford. So you could definitely look at that to possibly happen. Now, things from here do get a little bit longer and longer as I will progress. Houston has Deshaun Watson, who wants out. Stafford is from Texas. Who knows? It could make sense. Want to go back home and play his final days in Texas. It could happen. Pittsburgh is looking at Roethlisberger, who may be retiring. Yeah, they picked up Dwayne Haskins, but it's Dwayne Haskins. Let's be honest here. And then New Orleans, it's the same type of setup. Breeze may retire, and Taysom Hill is not as talented as Drew Brees is, or as Matt Stafford is either. So looking at that could be another possibility. But there's a lot of things that could happen. And then the super, super long shots, Dallas, Philadelphia, Denver, Carolina, San Francisco, Chicago, all having some kind of issues at the quarterback position or have uncertainty, especially in Philadelphia's case of not knowing if Wentz wants to be traded or not, that they could look at this type of move and say, hey, this might be a good stopgap for a couple of years until we can find someone in the draft. So a lot of things at play here. Don't be surprised if you see something come out of right field, because that's the Detroit way, and it's going to be interesting no matter how you look at it. But my money right now is on Indianapolis.
There's a couple other teams that you actually haven't touched. Oh, you did touch on Denver is one. That's
Yes.
So, talking about like some experts have thrown in 49ers and Denver as two possible shots. I know Devin kind of threw in there Denver. Jimmy said Stafford to Oakland. He said Gruden is in love with the guy. Gruden also loves every quarterback he cannot have. Like, that's how he does things. But I do want to touch on real quick is that another team that we haven't touched on that's possible because of moves they've made, Atlanta, because they are talking about either trading,
Also
cutting,
possible, yeah.
getting rid of Matt Ryan. Houston, yes, but I think Dallas is more realistic.
Yes.
And here's why. Dallas, to me, is not as much of a long shot because Dak Prescott, you mentioned coming off that injury, and they still haven't signed him to a long-term deal. This is leverage for Jerry Jones, and because the fact that you said he's from Texas, well, he's from closer to Dallas than Houston.
This is true.
So Dallas has been connected to Stafford for years already as destinations he could go, and they always want to try to win a championship. But yeah, those are other moves that I think would be really good. A question was thrown in here about how would New Orleans handle Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill's not the long-term answer, and I think even Taysom Hill in the back of his mind kind of knows that he's not as talented to be a QB of a future. So he will probably get cut or released or traded if they bring in Stafford to New Orleans. But yeah, there's a lot of destinations he could go. This is really going to be intriguing. I'm really more interested. I'm less interested on where he goes. I'm more interested on what are the Lions going to bring back. They should be from a floor. They should be asking for minimum 2 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be in the same year, but I would look for, if I'm the Lions, you need at least 2 to 3 picks for this coming year. You need probably 1 to 2 picks for next year as well, or you can do first-round picks in the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And most
probably
pundits,
not, because he's only got 2 years left.
Yeah, most sports pundits are saying that at the extreme minimum, a high-end first-round pick for him. What I think it definitely, I have to agree with you. It's going to cost a lot more than just that to be able to get him to be moved. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But definitely, again, make sure that you keep your eyes on FinalScore, because we definitely will report it the moment that it happens. Jimmy even said in the chat that he found out about different information from us before the NFL could even report it. So, hey, I guess we're doing something right. So, yeah, definitely make sure at PCN FinalScore on all social media, and we'll definitely have that out as soon as we find out. But it's going to be interesting no matter what happens.
Absolutely. The next topic we're going to talk about in Give or Go, the judge's ruling favors Zion Williamson and voids New Orleans Pelicans star's marketing agreement with Gina Ford. Give or Go.
All right, we're going to give on this just very, very slightly, because this, to me, is kind of like a non-issue at this point because of how long ago this happened. Now, if you guys have watched FinalScore for a while, you may remember some time ago we had talked about Zion Williamson and an issue with some type of marketing firm out of North Carolina while he was at Duke, that he signed some deal and it became this huge legal battle and all these kinds of things. This is the first thing we've heard about it since then with this judge's ruling, which basically voided that entire contract that Zion Williamson had with Gina Ford, because Gina Ford did not have the proper credentials and licensing to even operate in the state of North Carolina, because Gina Ford was suing for $100 million in damages and now will not see a single cent. So, hey, I mean, way to go, Zion. You don't have to pay all that money now. But
I mean, that's just, I don't think he had enough information when he signed with them to begin with, which
Exactly.
that's more of a detriment to the people that are around him versus the situation that actually ended up playing out.
Exactly. So, and now something else that was brought up is that they felt that Gina Ford and the marketing firm did not give a lot of information to Zion and gave him the true substance of what the contract meant and would actually how it would be carried out. So that did come up as well. So it's very interesting to see how these things play out sometimes, but at least this one played out the way it should have. But something that I don't think is playing out the way anybody wants to is our next topic, because the Michigan Wolverines have halted all athletic activities, period, for 14 days following positive tests for the new coronavirus strain. Give or go.
This is really just an evolution of what we kind of thought would happen when the first quote unquote COVID strain made national news last year. This is not really surprising to me that it's anybody that knows anything about biology and science. This is going to happen. New strains of current viruses are going to go out. It's really just unfortunate that this has happened, but I'm not really surprised. This is a good move to shut everything down. It sucks for the people involved, but this is completely necessary. Michigan has been very forthcoming about shutting things down if necessary. They were one of the first to be like, hey, we shouldn't do college football this year. They were one of the last to like join up and say, okay, let's do it. They had a bunch of games canceled from football. Use any reason that you want why they decided to cancel them, but they've been pretty out in front as best I think as they can as a university to be very cautious, shut things down. Not really surprised, but I hope this strain doesn't cause another repeat of 2020. That's really what we're all hoping that it'll be avoided here, but it's completely possible because we still don't know what's going on completely with the previous strain that happened last year.
Exactly. And as long as they can keep Harbaugh under wraps and not have him running around saying,
I'm a man, I'm 40.
They shouldn't have too many issues having it spread and keep everybody good and safe and be able to get over this.
What's he got to do with it? What's he got to do with it?
Because I'm always going to take a stab at Harbaugh any chance I get. So, it's all right, man. Just
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
You could do it too. It'd be okay. But at the end of the day, though, I agree this is the right action. Michigan has been very good about trying to stay on top and shutting things down if needed for anything COVID related. So definitely hats off for them taking this action, just shutting it all down. That way you can make sure that everybody is safe and able to make it through it without too much of an issue. So I can't believe I'm going to say this, but hats off to Michigan.
And then the other thing too, real quick to touch on both the men's basketball team from Michigan and I know Michigan State, they all had positive tests of COVID after they played at Purdue over the last couple of weeks. So really they need to be pointing the finger at Purdue and figuring out what the hell's going on in Indiana, because that's where like Michigan State hasn't played like a game since then. They had their other game from yesterday canceled again. They really got to figure out what's going on in West Lafayette, because both the men's teams from Michigan and Michigan State have been canceling games since they played in Purdue. And now they've got this going on. So it's just unfortunate for all the people involved, but hopefully, fingers crossed, everybody is staying healthy and staying safe.
Yes, absolutely. But it seems like this whole college basketball season is just kind of... Oof, I think I just clogged the toilet with that one. But still, I mean, we'll see what happens.
That's something else we can talk about on another show, because I've been paying a lot of attention lately about what college basketball is planning on doing for the conference championships, for the NCAA tournament, the men's basketball tournament. I've been paying a lot of attention to that over the last couple of days. So that's something we could talk about in another show.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I like... Yeah, it's a whole segment in and of itself, and we don't want to have this show go on for 3 hours. We don't have the sponsorship money for that, okay?
So if you want to be a sponsor of Final Scores, go ahead and reach out to us, pcnfinalscore@gmail.com, and we'll go all the 3 hours for you.
All right, but last topic for Give or Go. Last night was UFC 257, and Dustin Poirier stuns the notorious Conor McGregor in a second-round TKO. Give or go? Are you shocked?
Do we still care about Conor McGregor these days? Isn't he being like sued for hitting a woman or something? I mean, this guy is always in the news for some crazy antics because he just flat out can't control himself with his big mouth. But hey, at least he lost. So now you can't be quite as big of a mouth because you lost in your rematch, bro. But there's already rumblings that there might be the rubber match, the third fight that might end up coming down the pipeline between these two. Because we got to remember Conor McGregor did beat Dustin Poirier way back in 2014. So, I mean, it's whatever. But, hey, it's Conor McGregor. This dude, you win some, you lose some. And once you get your mouth big enough and get on the main stage, everybody always gets knocked down. Ask Ronda Rousey. It's why she ended up in WWE. So, it's just how it goes.
The bigger reason for this fight, this had a lot more riding on it, because this is to be like number one contendership for the vacated championship that Khabib that Khabib has retired and kind of left open. So,
which there's news about Khabib as well down the pipeline that's coming as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen with this. It's just McGregor, no matter what, though, is not going to be in that light anymore. I don't think, even at 22-5, I don't think that any good days are really ahead of him. I think he's now on the downswing and might even need to consider moving on at this point because his track record his past few fights have not looked good. Don't forget he lost to Money Mayweather in 2017, and now you've lost to Porter.
So first of all, take the boxing out of it. That was a money grab. Everybody knows that. Take that out of it. That's not counting.
You can't boast you're going to be competitive and can wipe the floor with one of the greatest of all time and expect,
I am talking about at this weight class. Conor McGregor has not been successful in this weight class. He moved down a weight class to try to fight because he wanted to fight Khabib and he wanted to test his mettle against one of the greatest fighters of UFC history. But if he goes back to his normal weight class, a class higher, I think he could be a little bit more successful. But the fact that he went down in weight class, he hasn't been successful at the lightweight spot.
I mean, he hasn't exactly been successful in his own weight class either because the last fight he had in his own weight class, he lost. So, I mean, granted, it was to Khabib, but...
Because he's jumping weight classes. He was trying to be a two weight class champion at one point. And I think that's what's been hurting him is the fact that his head got too big because he had a bunch of success. So then his head got too big and now he's trying to be champion in 2 different weight classes. And it's hard to jump weight classes and be successful like that. Not many guys have been able to do it.
I agree, but at the end of the day, it's just because it shows the testament to how big of a loudmouth he is that he thinks he can pull this off. But that's what he's going to do is he's going to keep trying to do this and he's going to tank his own career because not a lot of guys can do that. It's very hard to jump between weight classes and be successful. Not like you said, not a lot of guys have been able to do it, but Conor McGregor is not a guy that's going to be able to do it. Now, if he actually commits to a weight class and stays there, then yes, maybe he can see a resurgence. But beyond that, I have no faith in him being able to do it in this kind of approach. But
Dana White was talking about now that Poirier has won, he will fight Michael Chandler for the lightweight title next. And they had a recent conversation with Khabib about his UFC future, and it said, quote, didn't sound too positive, end quote. So that's really going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't think Khabib fights for UFC ever again. That's been kind of pretty. That's probably pretty positive, but Poirier said he doesn't want to fight Chandler because Chandler just made his UFC debut on Saturday. He wants to fight Khabib. He said, quote, I can guarantee I'm not fighting Michael Chandler. They can do whatever they want with the division. It's not a knock against him. It's just my feeling toward the division and the sport, end quote.
Well, I hate to tell him you're going to fight whoever Dana White tells you to fight or you're not fighting. That's how it works because he owns the UFC, not you. And looking at Conor McGregor in his last 6 fights, he is 3-3. So, bro, you don't have a whole lot of any kind of leverage to dictate anything, especially if Khabib decides he doesn't want to fight. So, but this just goes to the arrogance of Conor McGregor and all the ridiculousness that always surrounds him, which is why I truly don't care about him or UFC as a whole right now, because I feel like UFC is becoming WWE light, where it's all about the storylines and what kind of angles and drama can we infuse into this to make people care about our sport. And here we are.
All that stuff is not old. It's not old stuff. So boxing used to do that before WWE made it ultra popular. Literally what they're doing is they're taking the boxing route and doing the same thing. It's all about box office.
Yeah, but they're not doing it because of boxing. They're doing it because of their close ties to WWE right now. Let's be honest, because this didn't start happening. What close
ties? There's no one jumping over
Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, who's already rumored to be coming back to WWE. Brock Lesnar, who's possibly might be going back to UFC. Dude, they've had close ties for 6 years now, and it's because Dana White and Vince McMahon have similar products that are different, but they know they both work in sports entertainment to some extent.
But it's for the box office. Yeah, I get that. I understand that, but nobody's jumping back and forth to different sports. So I'll take that comment from you for a little grain of salt. But the one thing I want to look at is this is Conor's first fight in a couple of years. Yes, but he is planning on having multiple fights over the next 1.5 to 2 years. So this is his first fight back. I will be interested to see how he steps up in his next fight. He's fighting, He's fighting Eddie Alvarez, or no, he's not fighting Eddie Alvarez. He's got another. We don't know what his next fight is yet, but he's planning on fighting 6 fights, I think, over the next couple of years. I will be interested and intrigued to see how he performs over these next couple of fights. If you're 2 or 3 fights in and he's still struggling and getting his ass kicked, it's probably time to retire.
And that's the one thing he's going to have to seriously look at. But again, because of his ego, I don't know if he's going to make that realization. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's going to be crazy no matter how it works out. And we'll definitely report it here on Final Score, especially if he starts losing because, you know, hey, let's take jabs at Conor McGregor. Why not? But it's going to be interesting no matter how you look at it. So definitely make sure to stay tuned. But with that, saying tuned, you got to also, oh my gosh, I'm all over the place today. So sorry, bad transition for this one, but you can always join Podcast City Network because we offer an array of membership services, including, my goodness, I'm all over the place. Logo design and branding, social media advertising, and live podcast hosting, and so much more. And you also gain access to our network of shows that help with cross-promotion, guest, and overall reach, while also becoming a part of our ever-expanding PCN community that's literally based on people helping people. And the best part is that there's no membership fees. So what are you waiting for? Go to podcastcity.net/join now and join the fastest growing independent podcast network around, Podcast City Network, which means if we're talking about joining the network, that means it is now time for Meme Madness. And we got a nice little setup for this one. It's not going to be quite as big as last week's. Last week's was just flat out massive, but this week is going to be a good one. A lot of good ones in store because I know a lot of guys always have to, sadly, we know we got to make you guys wait. We only do one show a week, sadly. But, you know, we know sometimes that can probably wear on your significant other because they're probably laying there in bed thinking, I bet he's thinking of other girls. But really, they're just thinking, man, is this Sunday morning yet? I need my final score. Oh, it's too good. It is too good. But, you know, when you do watch Final Score, we explain a lot of crazy things. We like to go in depth. Like last week with me and S Money, we're explaining the implications of the Harden trade. We probably looked a little crazy like we do in this meme. So, you know, we're sports addicts. What can we say? Oh, me. But our next one, though, me and S Money, we're talking about the NFL playoffs last week. And S Money made a comment that didn't rub people quite the right way, as he said there was only 5 teams in the playoffs on Final Score. And Browns fans, I'm sure we're not happy with it. Oh, my goodness. Some good ones. A lot of these memes that we find are posted on our social media page, thanks to the one, the only Jimmy the Meme God, who also was celebrating crap team perfection with the new shirt and with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had the number 1 pick in the draft. So, man, I didn't know that he ever had a stint with the Jags. That's pretty crazy. Oh, me. But in our next one, though, is talking about the college football playoff. And, you know, they try to come up with spells that make you ugly, you know, and try and change it up. But it looks the same because no matter what you do, it all is just another version of the BCS, really. Let's be honest. And I know you probably hate it at this point, Craig, because, you know, we're so against the college football playoff right now because it's a sham, because it is BCS 2.0, that there's some that actually think that it's fine the way it is, but we really know it's not. So take that Mandalorian route and blast that guy.
I'm not against your position against it. I'm not against that. I'm just for expanding the playoff. I think you could have done a better job with the hashtag. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, well, you know, I like, you know me, I go balls to the wall if I'm going to do anything. So, you know,
this is true. You shoot first and ask questions next. Like that's what we like about you.
Yeah. You know, it's the true Clint Eastwood style, right? No?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. But you know who does have style and always is trying to make things happen? And that's one Bernie Sanders, who looks like, is he joining the fight to take down the CFP? I don't know. We'll have to see. But still, a lot of great memes. If you have memes that you want to see featured on the show or that you think that we would enjoy, post them to our social media at PCN Final Score and share them with us because we love them more than anything. I know I am like a freak for memes. I love them. And I mean, we've seen so many good ones come out recently.
You know who is joining the fight for down with CFP though, right?
Who's that?
You know who is joining? Your glorious mullet you got growing back there.
Hey now.
I see that.
Don't hate. That's right. Got keep it warm on top, you know. Just keeping warm. Oh my goodness. But yes, definitely if you have any memes, post them or send them to us at PCN Final Score or at our email, pcnfinalscore@gmail.com. We will take them and we will post them, and you might just get featured. Who knows? I know we feature a lot of different peoples, including Meme God Jimmy. So definitely check them all out. They're all on our Facebook page at PCN Final Score, as well as our Twitter and Instagram, also at PCN Final Score. But we're also somewhere else where you can do a lot of ratings and reviews. What can you tell us about that, Craig?
Well, we're talking about PodChaser. So PodChaser is your daily source for podcast discovery. Apple Podcasts is no longer the only credible place that you can rate and review podcasts. On PodChaser, you can follow individual creators. You can browse every podcast ever and rate and review individual episodes. You can find us on PodChaser. You go to podchaser.com, search keyword Final Score, one word, and give us a follow, give us a rating, and give us a review.
Yes, most definitely go on there and do all of those things, just because we are trying to expand this thing as much as we can, and we can only do it from the great support of people like PodChaser and the great fans like you. So definitely go check us out on PodChaser. But that now brings us to the week ahead. And what do we got in store now, Craig?
Well, absolutely can't forget about the NFC and AFC Championship games. Of course, just as a reminder, 3:05 on Fox is Tampa Bay versus Green Bay, and the AFC title game is going to be at 6:40 p.m. on CBS, Buffalo at Kansas City.
Absolutely. And as always, and I know we kind of skipped over this one at the beginning of the show, and that's my fault, but Final Score is looking for contributors.
We were so excited to talk about it.
We were so excited to talk about it.
The team at Final Score and Podcast City Network are looking for writers to contribute articles and content to Final Score. We're looking for those that want to gain some resume experience, build your brand as a journalist. If you just love sports and you want to talk about it on the show, or just grow in the business, you want to learn more or think you'd be a great fit for our team, message Final Score on Facebook, or you can send us an email, pcnfinalscore@gmail.com.
Absolutely. And we're definitely looking for people, and I've already had some that have reached out. So definitely make sure that if you have any interest whatsoever, that you reach out immediately, and we will get to work, man. I tell you what, because we're trying to grow this thing as big as we can. But also don't forget, there's tons, and I mean tons, of NBA and NHL action set for this week, and it's going to be a crazy week of action, man. What are you most excited for?
Well, I mean, looking at all of the action we've got, it's really like we didn't have a chance to get to NBA or NHL in this episode. But that's part of the reason why, we want to touch on it and bring in people that do want to talk about it. So we want to be able to give credit and coverage where coverage is due. Mm-hmm. So lots of stuff going on today. There's some big matchups. The Magic are playing tonight. They're playing against the Hornets. Mm-hmm. Clippers Thunder is tonight as well.
You can't be Boston,
as far as Boston and Cleveland, yeah. There's some big NHL games as well. The Capitals are playing tonight. Oh, the Maple Leafs and the Flames are on tonight. Islanders, Devils. There's a ton of big games going on tonight. So no matter what you're into, there's also the final round of golf, the American Express Championship in La Quinta, California. Mm-hmm. Tony Finau, Siwoo Kim, and Max Homa are all tied at 15 under, all tied at first, and purse is $6.7 million. So,
wow,
a lot of, yeah.
Get that cheddar.
Yeah, lots of good stuff going on all around the world of sports today.
Yeah, absolutely. But also don't forget that next week, episode 92, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. here live on Facebook Live. All you have to do is give us a like and a follow for those notifications on our Facebook page at PCN Final Score so you don't miss out. But sadly, that does mean it is the end of our episode. We thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the show week in and week out. We truly cannot do it without you guys. But sadly, we got to end this one eventually. So I'm Chris, and that's Craig. And you guys have just watched Final Score. We'll see you next week.